artificial intelligence will completely transform our world. But what is AI? Why will it affect you? And how can you and your business survive and thrive through the AI revolution? Welcome to AI and You. Here is your host, author, speaker, and futurist, Peter Scott.
Hello, this is episode 226. My guest today is a household name in the United Kingdom. Sir Anthony Seldon is founder of their AI in Education initiative, but is also known to millions of people as the author of books about prime ministers, and has just published one about the tenure of Liz Truss. As much as you might think this would be a short book, since Truss was famously outlasted by a 60p head of lettuce live-streamed by the Daily Star when she resigned as the shortest-serving Prime Minister in British history. In fact, it is a hefty deconstruction with the withering subtitle of How Not to Be Prime Minister. But I heroically resisted nearly all the possible Liz Truss jokes, so we could get down to the business of talking about AI in education, which is so important that Sir Anthony made time for us even when he was doing back-to-back interviews about his book. We're going to talk about how teachers should think about the size of the impact of AI on education, the benefits of AI to students and teachers, what his AI in Education initiative is doing, and what the best role of teachers in the classroom is in the AI age. Sir Anthony is one of Britain's leading contemporary historians, educationalists, commentators, and political authors. For 20 years, he was a transformative headmaster, principal in North American lingo, first at Brighton College and then Wellington College, one of the country's leading independent schools. From 2015 to 2020, he served as Vice-Chancellor of the University of Buckingham. In 2023, he was appointed interim head of Epsom College. He is the author or editor of over 35 books on contemporary history, including insider accounts on 6 21st century prime ministers. In 2018, he wrote The Fourth Education Revolution, which anticipates stunning, unprecedented effects of AI on education. He was knighted in 2014 for services to education and modern political history. By the way, if you want to get a joke at the beginning and you don't know what nominative determinism is, it's the, not entirely tongue-in-cheek, theory that people with names that connote a certain activity are unconsciously drawn to that profession, like Usain Bolt, or William Wordsworth, or Thomas Crapper. Let's get to the interview with Sir Anthony Seldon. All right, Sir Anthony Seldon, welcome to AI and You. It's a privilege to have you here, especially considering how busy you are with your new book. Congratulations on that. And of course, we're here to talk about your work on AI in education. And I must interject, actually, that I've heard you say you're no relation to the Harry Seldon of Isaac Asimov's Foundation books, but I have to wonder if it provides some validation for the theory of nominative determinism.
Well, you could say that.
So many teachers that I have spoken to are in such confusion and upset right now because they don't know what to make of AI and what it's doing to education. They literally cannot locate its impact on a scale ranging from the invention of fire to, the longevity of the Liz Truss administration. So what could you say to them that would give them the sense of the right importance to attach to AI and what it's doing to education right now?
Well, it's very nice indeed to be talking to you. And I think that, frankly, most teachers, the vast majority globally, are worried about AI. They're worried about cheating and the difficulty of discovering what work that has come out of a generative AI system. They're worried about the safety of children and young people and deep fakes and manipulation and data security. And they're worried also about whether they're going to lose their own jobs and whether they can understand, particularly those who trained back in the last century. There's so much apprehension. And I think we just have to be honest and say, yes, it is worrying. It's frightening. How big is it? It's not as big as fire, but it's as big as the printing press. It is revolutionary in the way that it will impact on learning, because it used to be the case that a child would need to come into school to listen to the teacher, or a student go to the university to listen to the knowledgeable expert on biology or language or history. And now you don't have to do that. You don't have to have a teacher marking your work. Now you can learn about maths, you can learn about chemistry, you can learn about geography over a system just like I'm talking to you here, with technology that will help the student learn and also mark their work and give them assessment on it. So it is a really big thing. But I don't think that anyone needs to worry, because I think recognizing that we're all in the same boat, we're all worried and concerned. We're rightly concerned about the safety of young people and about matters like cheating and getting away with not working properly. But I think what's a good attitude? I think it is to be bemused, certainly, but also to be curious and to just bit by bit absorb what AI can do. It can't do a lot of things, but it can do a lot of things. Understand what it can do and how it can make your own life as teachers easier and as parents, and how it can make students' lives easier, and what it can't do and what the dangers are. So it's coming. We're in the middle of it. It will be uncomfortable probably for 10 years, and then it will start settling down.
And you said in your 2018 book that teacher training will be revolutionized by the coming of AI. So is that time now? And what does it look like?
So I think the more forward-looking teacher training will be helping the would-be emerging teachers to understand what the technology can do, where it works best, with what age groups already, and in what subjects and in what aspects of learning and marking, but also how it can be used to help in relations with parents, how it can be helpful in lesson preparation, in dividing up a syllabus into manageable chunks, how it can help in school organization and classroom management. So it will also help, it will be used increasingly for teacher trainers, those people learning. So they can themselves put in prompts asking, how can I best teach a group of an all-male class about physics who are aged 14 and 15? How can I teach them about this aspect of physics? And how can I deal with those who are finding the subject difficult? And they will get personalized responses out of the generative AI, which of course they then have to assess, but they'd be assessing it with a teacher. They're getting able to, as you're learning, to constantly be asking. And when I learned how to teach 40 years ago, I was desperate and there were queues outside our teacher trainer. And as we'd come in after a day at school with all the queries about things, now one can just ask the generative AI about all these questions, and one gets answers which may not be at the moment reliable, which may be quirky and worse, but are month by month improving.
And you have founded the AI in Education initiative in the UK. And can you tell us how that's proceeding, what its goals are, and perhaps what it means for how the role of teachers could be shifting?
So this was an initiative founded in May 2020 2003. It came out of a book I wrote called The Fourth Education Revolution. And the catchword is it is by the teaching profession for teachers, and it's of teachers, but it's for all students everywhere. It is the profession itself saying we can't wait for government. We can't wait for national legislatures. We can't trust the tech companies themselves to give the advice and to do the policing, because obviously they've got their own financial incentives. But we, the teachers, have to get really stuck in and help ensure that the quality of advice that has been given to young people is absolutely the right advice. So the initiative is extensive in the UK, and it covers primary, secondary, sixth form, with a lot of focus on special education needs. And it is a device that's already been helpful. We're growing rapidly. We've only just started. It's a charity. We're totally not for profit. We will never make any. It's not the aim of the organization to make money. We are there simply to help all learners and all teachers, and especially those who are most vulnerable and who are let down by the current system.
And you're echoing there things that I've said to many of the teachers that I've been working with, which is that they cannot wait for a Ministry of Education or a government or large institutions to tell them what to do. But there again, every physics teacher in the world shouldn't be on their own in reinventing how they're teaching physics. So where can they look for ways of sharing the effort on the work that they need to do right now?
Well, I think certainly looking where everyone is in the world, looking at the AI in Education website. We're about to be significantly upgrading the quality of the website. But if one is teaching physics, and if one has a group of 15-year-olds who one is going to be teaching, and one has a syllabus for the year, then why would the physics teacher not want to talk to one of the different AI systems on the market and say, this is the syllabus. How optimally can this be divided up and taught, and be constantly just getting advice and counsel from the AI as a check and as a guide that one is doing things optimally. I mean, that AI, generatively AI, is consulting such a deep, wide pool of expertise before it comes back with its answer. Obviously, everything depends on the quality of the prompt, the question, but why would one not be wanting oneself? It's like having your teacher trainer with you all the time at your side, or your head of department, or your mentor. Your mentor, your head of department, will be extremely busy at the school doing other things. Here, you can ask also in complete confidence. Sometimes people are ashamed or embarrassed to ask questions, and no one's going to know what you've asked. And sometimes it can be, how can I deal with a group and back class who are completely uninterested in this aspect? How can I best put over the material in a way that will engage them?
Thank you. What would you say for teachers is the importance of their unique contribution that they can make of their physical presence in the classroom now? What light should they look at that in?
In this light, that AI is going to beg the question absolutely fundamentally about what does it mean to be human? And there's so many things that generative AI can do and provide information on at the speed of light, and which never gets tired, never gets grumpy, and which day by day, week by week, is getting progressively better at the quality of answers. And so you've got all that on the one hand, and you can say, well, why then do we need to have teachers? And the reason is that we are human beings, that human beings are conscious and that we need other human beings, we would much sooner go and hear Taylor Swift than see Taylor Swift on a television screen. We'd much sooner go and see a ice hockey game than seeing it on a screen. We'd much sooner see the Olympics. For those lucky enough, I wasn't lucky enough to go to Paris to see the Olympics or the Paralympics. So we're always wanting to be together and in the presence of other human beings. And that physical presence of the teacher is far more than reassurance, far more than safety. One can only go so far using technology. One needs to have the human ingredient. And I think on that point, on the human ingredient, this human ingredient here, for what that's worth, is going to have to depart. And because I can hear the door slamming outside and the next student demanding my time, and I'm not as efficient as any AI anywhere in the world at delivering answers quickly and efficiently to your wonderful questions.
And thank you. And you may compare yourself on efficiency, but I will say that you are far more inspiring. And I think more people will remember your words than anything that ChatGPT says to them. So thank you.
Yeah, and I would, well, not my words, but human beings' words. The biggest question for us all today is, what does it mean to be human? And what is it that the warmth of another human being, the company of another human, the explanation in the same physical space by another human, why is that so much more a profound experience than anything remote? It's about more than data and information. It's about that magical elixir ingredient of humanity that helps us to find joy and meaning and delight, in which the technologies will only ever be a facilitator, but never more than a facilitator. So let's pick up there maybe in the future.
I would love to. Thank you very much, Sir Anthony, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me on. It's an absolute thrill. And you know, you just made me think a lot.
That's what we're here for. Thank you. That's the end of the interview. Anthony's comparison with the invention of the printing press has made me think a great deal since then. I've never been much good at history, so I'm doing some projecting here, but I think I can safely say that the invention of books made a transformative impact on the profession of teaching. I can imagine teachers back then saying, "Look, our job has always been to pass on oral histories. What's the point of doing that now that students can just read the books? Everything we have to say will be put into the books and there will be no need for us." Well, it's equally safe to say that teachers did have a continuing purpose and their value was not lessened at that point. And you can draw the parallels with the existential questions that teachers are asking today, which in no way lessens the urgency and importance of those questions because we have no crystal ball telling us that history is guaranteed to rhyme with what happened when books were invented. So I'm speaking out and working with schools in Canada, the US, and the UK so far on how they can become AI ready. And the messaging starts with just getting people to understand and appreciate the scale of what's happening. Teachers, like people everywhere, haven't had time to process this disruption. And that goes for the parents and school boards as well, so I work with them too. Groups everywhere contain people who are confused and are embarrassed to admit it because it looks like everyone around them has got it figured out. Well, newsflash, they don't. So my engagements start with deep work to identify the different factions present, give them a useful, practical understanding of what's happening, and align everyone behind a common direction that will be productive. It's not as black and white as getting people to back AI as much as possible. As I say, I'm nobody's cheerleader. It's group work, and every group is different. Contact me at peter@humancusp.com for more information. In today's news ripped from the headlines about AI, Google released a tool called Notebook LM that is making big waves. The free tool allows you to upload multiple sources like documents or point it at a website, which it will then use as the training material for, well, they call it a research assistant, but it seems more like a knowledge base for multiple types of learning assistants. With one click, you can create an FAQ, for instance. But that's not all. There are buttons for generating a study guide, a table of contents, a timeline, and a briefing document. And finally, and this is the big attention getter, you have the option to create an audio interview that sounds like two podcast hosts, who sound a lot better looking than me, discussing the material as though it was just the most exciting thing they'd ever heard of. Those last about 10 minutes, and here's an excerpt from the one it created when I fed it my book, Artificial Intelligence and You.
And that brings us to another crucial question that you highlighted, AI explainability. It's one thing for an AI to make a decision, but how do we ensure those decisions are understandable, even justifiable to us humans, especially when the stakes are high?
It's like that black box problem, right? The AI spits out an answer, but we don't always know how it got there.
Exactly. And that can be a problem for a couple of reasons. First, if we don't understand how an AI arrived at a particular decision, it's hard to trust that decision.
Right.
We're essentially taking a leap of faith. And second, if we don't understand how the AI works, it becomes very difficult to identify and correct errors or biases that might be baked into the system.
Which makes it feel almost impossible to address those biases, let alone eliminate them.
Right. It's like trying to solve a maze in the dark. You might eventually find your way out, but it's going to be a lot more challenging, and you're more likely to make mistakes along the way.
Okay, so explainability is key.
It's not perfect. There are places where it made mistakes, but you can have as many bites at that apple as you want. Some people have already figured out how to match the voices with video avatars. This looks like Google finally taking aim at OpenAI's custom GPT feature in a big way. Next week, my guest will be John Laird, Principal Cognitive Architect and Co-Director of the Center for Integrated Cognition, here to talk about cognitive architectures for artificial general intelligence. That's next week on AI and You. Until then, remember, no matter how much computers learn how to do, it's how we come together as humans that matters.
That's all for this episode of AI and You. Please leave a rating and comment and share with your friends. Get the book Artificial Intelligence and You and see more videos and articles at aiandyou.net. That's aiandyu.net, where you can also send us your questions. Thank you for listening.